One day in San Francisco, I was riding an electric longboard and I broke my jaw. So I couldn't eat for like 2 months because I somehow convinced people to work for me for free. So it's always like been in me, I think, because I had this like idea of like businesses and how to make money. I enjoy making them mad though, but I got the Teal Fellowship, right? And I was like, okay, well, like if I accept this, then like you guys are gonna get very mad at me. Haha, let's do it. I think when I started working at Snapchat again is when they were like, oh, okay, cool, like you're successful.
Lucy, welcome to the pod. We're so excited to have you. Could you give a really quick, tell people who you are?
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy, founder, entrepreneur, investor. I'm most known for doing a lot of Berries Bootcamp, though. Pretty much have been in tech my entire life. And yeah, I think that's a good TLDR.
You're known for doing berries every morning, like a ritual. You do double berries.
Yep, I go to the 6:15 and 7:25 a.m.
every single day.
Yes.
Wow.
I will say like sometimes Saturdays I give myself a rest break, like a rest day, but like you can pretty much count me there like Monday through Fridays.
Where does this come from?
It's actually kind of funny. So one day in San Francisco, I was riding an electric longboard and I broke my jaw. So I couldn't eat for like 2 months, right? So I decided that because I couldn't socialize or eat, it was my time to finally get hot and get abs. So I basically signed up for ClassPass, started doing berries, and realized it was my favorite workout. So I got the the monthly membership, and then the number of berries classes I was doing was increasing. And then by the time my jaw was healed, I was just addicted. So it's pretty much continued since then.
And you can operate. It seems like you are you're like a night owl of a person. Mm-hmm. You're able to be out late and then go to berries and still be functional every day and be as high energy as you are.
I mean, I would say like I prefer to get 5 to 7 hours of sleep. Like if I have to get 3 to 4, I will get 3 to 4. And like I believe in discipline and that like once you break a habit, you make excuses, right? So for a long time actually in Miami, I was only doing 1 berries a day because in my head I was like, oh, okay, it's okay to do 1 berries a day because I want to get to the office earlier. And I basically had this free car service that started at 8 a.m. So like the earliest berries I could do was 8. So yeah, I made an excuse and I did it. And it took me a little bit to like get back into my 2-a-days. I don't really want to like fall back in there. So no matter how tired I am, I just like force myself to do it. So I don't make excuses to skip it in the future.
Stepping back, you've been super successful as an entrepreneur and as an investor. Where did this all come from? Like, were you high performing when you were a kid growing up? Or were you a slacker?
I would say it probably comes from like Asian culture. My parents always emphasize having money or making money and saving money. So
Were
when
they
I was
poor, rich?
I would call them middle class, but acted like they were dirt broke. But we were definitely like, I would say like middle class. So like in kindergarten even, I was figuring out ways to make money from like selling Pokemon cards, trading them up, selling colored pencils, etc. I got sent to the principal's office a bunch of times.
What's wrong with that?
Also, what's wrong with that?
Oh my God.
Because I guess I wasn't allowed to like do that, and I wasn't, like I was just bored in school. And this kind of continued like throughout elementary school, high school, etc. Like in elementary school, I have no idea how, but I convinced someone like to do free engineering and free design work for me. So I created my own virtual pet site, which was like honestly kind of sick because I somehow convinced people to work for me for free. So it's always like been in me, I think, because I had this like idea of like businesses and how to make money.
What is this virtual pet site?
I don't even remember what it was called. I think I went through 2 different names. Like one of them was like SVYT. I like recruited artists off of DeviantArt, and I don't even know
like a virtual Tamagotchi thing.
Yeah. And then I went through a different name change. I don't remember. But I remember I had found the artwork on DeviantArt one day, like randomly, and I have no idea how I got them for free.
But you started really young, which is, I think, the only way you see world-class entrepreneurs start. Like, even in my case, I was selling traced drawings on a playground when I was in 2nd grade. Got in lots of trouble for that. And, like, I had one kid pay me $100 for something I traced in, like, oh,
that's kind of
10
amazing.
minutes. Yeah, that was great. But
did you get access to a computer super young?
I did. I don't remember what age I got access to a computer, but it was pretty young. Like I would say, like probably preschool, kindergarten era. Yeah, I would go to the library and just like hang out on the computers too.
But why did we end up as entrepreneurs and investors when so many of our Asian peers with the strict Asian parenting, they ended up in kind of boring, mediocre jobs.
Well, I think that I don't know if I call those jobs boring.
Not
mediocre.
to be an asshole, but like
it's
kind of
less exciting.
mediocre.
Yes, I would say that we're probably a more risk oriented because like you see these Asian parents, like the stereotype is you need to be a doctor, you need to be an engineer, you need to be a lawyer, and these three things are like high income jobs that are very stable, and most kids, listen to their parents and they end up going to these different paths in life. Like my parents basically disowned me when I became an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they just got really mad. I enjoy making them mad though, but I got the Teal Fellowship, right? And I was like, okay, well, like if I accept this, then like you guys are gonna get very mad at me. Haha, let's do it. So I ended up taking the Teal Fellowship, and they were just extremely upset. And I get it because education gave them everything that they have in life. So like for them, it was almost like me saying like, I don't love you, I don't respect you, I'm throwing away everything you gave up, and immigrated from China to America to give me to like be a dumb kid, right?
Yeah.
So that's when they stopped talking to me for a while, and
like for years, you guys stopped.
I think when I started working at Snapchat again is when they were like, "Oh, okay, cool, like you're successful."
Oh, okay.
Because I was getting like paid pretty generously.
Because they were
there.
worried that you'd be like a homeless bum and
Basically,
disappoint the family.
Yeah. But they were still reaching out to me. Like it turned out my dad was emailing me constantly to the point where Gmail was marking it as spam. So I later discovered it because it was pretty much like just like all caps. Go back to school, like you're going to be a failure, you're going to be homeless. And Google, like Gmail, thought they were spam emails. So it was like, they were still reaching out to me, like trying to convince me and like put me back on like what they thought was the right path.
they really cared about you.
Yes, exactly.
Like
They
this
really
all is just real love.
Exactly.
Just comes out in a weird way.
Yes. It was their way of showing love.
Did the Teal Fellowship not have somebody that is like the person that talks to people's parents? Because I assume this situation happens all the time with people that accept that, and it's like kind of gives them some comfort around what their child is doing. Like they're dropping out to go do this, or they're leaving to go do this.
I would say the Teal Fellowship probably had people that were willing to do that. I don't think my parents would have had a conversation with them though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What was that fellowship like?
I would say the pro of it was just that you got money like with no strings attached, right? Like you had ultimate freedom and you had really smart peers around you. I would say like the support system, at least for me, was more so the peers. Like I got to meet some of the most incredible people that I still know today, right? But it was very independent, I would say.
Was there an idea you came into it with?
I did not really come into it with a real idea. I used like a hackathon project that I had done the week before when I submitted my application.
Was that something you continued to work on?
No. What I ended up doing for the Teal Fellowship was like a two-sided marketplace where people would like make food, like homemade food, and deliver it, which ended up like people were making good money, $100 an hour. Like there was a sorority that like launched with it and made $5,000 in the first day. But turns out it's actually really illegal to do this, like food safety issues. So yeah.
Did that end up getting shut down? You just stopped doing it? What was the ending of that?
Stopped doing it. I think that there was just a lack of passion for the project, along with the fact that like we had come across the food safety issues, and we're like at that point in time, you need like a centralized food kitchen to be able to do something like that. I think laws have recently changed, like over COVID. So yeah, I just ended up going to take a normal job for a few years.
What was that? I mean, what was that like going from kind of building your own thing, doing your own thing, to now going into assume a much more structured and defined role?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got to learn a lot in these like structured roles because I got to work with people like that have had several more years of experience. So I ended up going to Quora and then Snap, and I also got a feel for like just the different cultures because they are like they could not be more opposites. And I learned what I liked in each culture and like how I would imagine I would. Like the values I would have for my own companies in the future. So overall, I would say good experience.
Were you thinking like that at those companies? Were you thinking like, how do I take away some of these values or the culture for my own thing? Like, was that in your mind? Like, hey, I'm going to go do my own thing again, but this is just a learning experience, or how are you viewing it?
I was definitely viewing it as a learning experience, especially because like I wanted to, like actually ship a product and see like the long-term impact, which I actually got to do some really cool things at Quora. I was running a lot of A/B tests, and these A/B tests were like that's where I learned that like by changing like one word, you could increase like conversion by 30% on signups. Like I was seeing pretty crazy numbers based off these A/B tests I was running, which is really cool. I moved to Snap, and like I remember I mentioned the word A/B tests, and it was like a banned word. Basically, they're like, don't mention the word A/B test here again. And I was like,
why?
wow, super different. I think that they care more about like things as a whole versus like, okay, cool, like everything is a formula and like you fix like each little part and then it like solves the product, right? And it was a totally different way of thinking, but it was really fun seeing just like, I think how much of a visionary Evan was. Like that was something that really surprised me versus like I think that Quora, the team was much more like mathematical and calculated versus Snap is very like visionary, creative, etc.
I mean, it just shows that different cultures could work and they're successful in different ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you went to Quora originally because you were an avid Quora user.
Yep, I was an avid Quora user. I was like basically asking questions that the VC would ask, which is like, hey, what's your like monthly active users, daily active users, like month-over-month growth, retention, etc. At some point, they got very annoyed. I do think that they mixed up monthly active users with page hits when they gave me the number, but that's a whole nother story.
And then at Quora, you meet your co-founder, your future co-founder for Scale AI. How did you guys build a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, we would just eat lunch together. He was, you know, another young kid that was working full time. So it was just very natural. Yeah.
Was that a pretty fun place to work? Was it a lot of younger people? Like, was the engineering team pretty young?
I would say, I don't really remember if the engineering team was young per se, but I would say it was very talented. Like it was like where some of the best engineers in the Valley went. I think there were a few companies that were just known to have good engineers. So like Quora was one of them, Dropbox, Palantir, et cetera. And I think that like, you know, I ended up choosing Quora partially because I used the product, but partially because like the eng team was just so highly respected there.
And at what point do you go, hey, we're going to go start a new company? Like, tell us about that. What was that like?
Yeah, I was at Snap. He was at MIT. And we had always thought about building a company together. And I think it was like literally over winter break, we started working on like side projects. Because I was just getting the itch again to like start something. And like YC apps are coming up, I think, the following year. And then, yeah, it just kind of happened.
What was the original premise for the business?
I mean, the first thing we built was ClassPass for clubbing. Very dumb idea.
That was the first business.
Yeah, that was the first one.
ClassPass for what?
ClassPass for clubbing. Then we immediately pivoted.
All right. What was, go back up. What was the idea? Like, give us what were you thinking at the time?
In our heads, I was like, okay, cool. You'll pay this monthly membership fee of like, let's call it $40 a month. And then we could just get promoters to bring you to clubs for free. So it's no cost for us. And there's so many promoters and like, you know, there are clubs that are offering free drinks to get people through the door. So we can make it seem like this cool thing, but like so not well networked people wouldn't know about it. But then we noticed that the only people that were signing up was like VCs. So yeah, I was like nothing.
And you're in San Francisco at the time, which is
I'm
not.
in LA.
You were in LA
Yes.
at that time.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say San Francisco is not a very club heavy
so
place to be doing this.
Like I've never really been to a club, and then I moved to LA and I saw like how the like promoter scene was moving, etc. And I was like, oh, like I could totally make money off of this. Like I didn't realize how small of a market like hospitality was really, but I think it's like a decent lifestyle business. Like you see, what's that table service called? There's a table service app. I forget what it's called, but like,
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes, the bottle service app thing.
Yeah.
Like. It does okay. Like it's like very much so a lifestyle business, but like it's a pretty good lifestyle business.
Yeah.
And you call your parents and you're like, I'm quitting my job, and they say, oh, what are you going to go do? And you're like, I'm starting an app. And they're like, what kind of app? And it's like to help people get into nightclubs.
That's like an Asian parent's dream come true.
No, so they got very, very mad when I quit Snap. I was like, hey, I'm going to go do Y Combinator. And then they were just like, hey, don't you realize that like 99.9% of startups fail? Like you're going to fail.
You're going to ruin your life.
I know. They're like, if you raise $5 million, maybe I would understand why you were leaving Snap. But the like risk benefit analysis doesn't make sense here. And then, you know, after the Series A and we raised basically $5 million, they're all happy and they're like, wow, we're so proud of you.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wait, and then where does that happen? Because, okay, so you start this business that doesn't, you raise $5 million for that business.
Oh, no, we did not.
Okay.
Then we pivot into this business called Ava, which is like, we're going to help you find the best healthcare professionals for like the service that you need. The reason why this is just never going to work is because it's like like a one-off use case, especially for young people, and old people aren't going to be using an app, right? So like we very quickly realized this, but this is where we raised, we got into YC with, and then raised like a small pre-seed round. Granted, they wanted like $1 million. They wanted to give us $1 million. We said no. So ended up doing a small pre-seed round and then going to YC. And in YC, I remember we asked our like YC partners, so how many appointments do we have to book and how much revenue do we have to generate to be a top YC company? And they told us, and like within 2 weeks, we're like, we're not going to hit these numbers. They're just like,
who's your YC
there
partner?
was no path there. It was Jared and Aaron.
Okay, so you have this, you realize that, hey, the market isn't going to be big enough for this, or we're not going to be able to get the user base we need to make that happen. And now now we got to pivot again.
Yeah, so we realized we had to pivot again. And then basically we were calling doctors all the time and we were like, hey, like we wish there was like a way to call doctors over like the code, right? And then our roommate was like, oh, so you mean like an API for humans? And then we're like, I've built enough viral apps at this point. I knew that would go viral. So we kind of look at them and we're like, do you want this idea? And they're like, no, you can have it. So we ended up doing an API for humans. And there's so many stories out there on like how the founder, but this is actually the real founding story. So then, did that, launched on Product Hunt, and then a bunch of VCs reached out afterwards. Because I think VCs were looking at Mechanical Turk and have always thought that there could be a better Mechanical Turk. And Crowdflower had obviously existed, and Crowdflower was a pretty large business at that point in time. So we had a bunch of VCs reach out, but then around like the next week, I had built a Pokemon Go map that hit like 5 million users in a week. So our YC partners actually wanted us to pivot into that, and they're like, hey, like scale isn't going to work out. You should do like this Pokemon Go map instead. Look at the traction. Like you could like go into gaming, etc. And then we had told them like a little bit later, oh, we actually got a Series A term sheet, and suddenly they were like, oh, like yes, go and scale.
The advice in YC is very weird like that. I mean, to be fair,
but
though,
I get it. Like Excel investing increases your chances of success by like a good amount.
Yeah.
A good amount. Wait, to back up, just to understand both of these. So you want to build this. Give us the use case for Ava for this scale initial model?
Yeah, so we actually thought we were going to take over BPOs and phone calling specifically, because like phone calling is such a big thing with BPO companies, and like that was a use case that we needed, right?
Outwards for doctors to patients, or?
Oh no, just like if anyone needed to like reach, like have a human do an outbound call.
Okay, got it.
Yep. And then eventually just like, really dove into self-driving cars because it ended up being one of our first customers. And then our lead investor actually was like, you can just use AI, right? Like you have an API, you have structured data. And we're like, oh, good point. And then we were also just like having trouble quality controlling phone calls. We were starting to get like API calls where people were like having us call to like sell bad stocks and scam people essentially. So we're like, okay, cool. Like we don't want to do this. Like let's do something that we can quality control. And that ended up being the start of scale. Yeah.
So you have these, did you, all those investors that invest in this initial idea, did that all roll over? Like first, like the people that invested in this nightclub, like clubbing for ClassPass business, that are like, I invested in this business and now that has become Scale AI, and that is probably one of the best investments I've ever made in my life.
So we've actually only had one investor in our pre-seed. The rest all came after Excel put in money.
Okay, wow. And this Pokemon map.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, I'm doing a startup. That's not hard enough. The startup's not really going the way I want, but like, I also need to go build this Pokemon map.
I mean, I knew it would only take a weekend, and then another friend and I were like, we saw the trends of Pokemon Go. So this was actually not with Alex, but with my friend Jared. And we were just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let's do this like Pokemon Go map. Let's build it over a weekend. And then it became one of the most popular ones. It was like featured on pretty much every single website. It was really cool because like you could be in like, he was in a wedding in like the middle of nowhere in like the United States, like middle America. He's like, dude, I see people on their phones looking at a Pokemon Go map, which is like a cool feeling to have, Actually, part of the reason we probably didn't pivot into that is also just like we couldn't figure out the equity splits between like everyone because, we were 2 founders, now we're 3 founders if like we do the Pokemon Go map, et cetera.
That's hard.
Yeah.
What'd you do with that bit? Like, what'd you do with that?
Oh, we did nothing. It just like, it came and it died because then we got the Series A for scale and then decided to focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the self-driving like Cruise becomes kind of your first eye-opening to, hey, this like data labeling is a big business and we can completely pivot our business towards this.
Yep.
But there's like what, 2 or 3 companies, autonomous vehicle companies at that point So like you need to get all of them as customers first, or are you like, hey, we can take this and now we'll go into other industries?
Yeah, so we basically tackled one by one, but I would say like what really helped our trajectory was a LiDAR labeling. We had hired this incredible engineer who was able to build our LiDAR labeling tool in 3 days. And this LiDAR labeling tool was better than the LiDAR labeling tools that like pretty much every self-driving car company was using on their own. So they're like, oh, great, you'll label data more accurately and you have this better LiDAR labeling tool? Like, yes, please. So that was really when we were like winning customers without like, it was like a one call sale.
How did Cruise come in as the first one?
We just mass emailed everyone that was, a YC founder.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the YC way. They tell us to just sell to each other, and it's
great.
It's the mafia, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got all my first customers.
I know. I think that like if I were to do a B2B SaaS business, like I want to go to YC, right? Because you just get that network.
It's like instant credibility. Like
Exactly.
I put Airbnb, I put Stripe, Pinterest as my like, marquee customers. You put the logos on your website, it sells everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like really unfair advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Who was your first customer?
My first was actually Bill Clerico from WePay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, pretty much everyone you could think of, I got to sign up. All thanks to YC.
So now you, like at what point do you start to see like this business is going to take off? Like where was that point in the business where
I
you're
think
like,
the inflection point was really when we went into self-driving. And then we hired this guy, Shrav. And he was just like an incredible marketer and seller. So we were just starting to close deals like left and right. And we very quickly grew as a brand that had the highest quality data.
mm-hmm. And like, what's the trajectory of that business? Like that first year, second year, third year, like how long did it take to get to like a meaningful revenue point?
I mean, I would say year 2, it was pretty meaningful, but like year 3, 4 is when it was, like really blowing up.
What is that like? I mean, so you get to this point where I assume you're just getting flooded with interest from investors. Everything's really exciting. Like very few people get that experience, right? To be in that place. Like what was that like?
I mean, this sounds kind of crazy, but I feel like I've always been very lucky to like be in that place. Like my whole thing is I won't do a round unless it's like preempted, right? So it's exciting, but it's also like, okay, cool.
But it wasn't like that wasn't a huge motivator at the time. Like, wow, we're just getting so much interest. People are putting really high values on the company. That wasn't a big driver for you.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, since you've kind of rode that high for the past few years, what is your motivation now? Like my read on you is that you're just kind of like a curious geek. You like to play with things. You're a tinkerer. You like to explore. But I don't know, how else would you describe your motivations beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I really want to build a second unicorn because when you look like the best founders in the world, like I think building your first, like a lot of it is luck, but the best founders, they do have a skill, right? Like some people build like 3 unicorns, which is just like, it's a little insane, but it would be cool to be able to like figure out how to repeat it. And I also think consumer is one of the hardest challenges out there. So it's something that I'm personally really interested in. And I get to work with like my friends and I become friends with like a lot of creators that we're working with right now. So it's just fun.
How many years did you take off between Scale and what you're doing now? And then we'll talk about what you're
I
doing
don't really
now.
think I took off that much time because I immediately went into venture after. So I started back in Capital and HF0 with Dave. And HF0 is still running. It's a program in San Francisco that backs second-time founders, essentially. That wasn't the original thesis. The original thesis was like, we were just going to back the best engineers. But like, I think second-time founders, generally, like you learn more from what you did right than what you do wrong. Although you do learn from what you do wrong, right? So I think that there's just like a higher hit rate with second-time founders. Data might show otherwise. I actually don't know because like
the data does show that it does better.
Yeah, I've seen totally different. Like I've seen so many studies where like some data shows it's not, some data shows it is. So yeah.
Have you always liked is investing energizing for you?
I would say investing is definitely fun. It's definitely easier. I like that I got to like do a lot of breadth versus depth. So learn about different industries, and I think it's like very similar to founding a company in the sense that you need to pick the best people, right? So like as an investor, I really look for like who's smarter than me and who's a better engineer than me. And those are the people that I want to back, especially when I'm going so early stage. And I do the same, with my own company. I think the hardest roles for me to interview for are like the non-technical roles because like I just really don't know like what a good finance person looks like, for example. I have other people interview my finance people.
Was that transition when you decided you were going to leave Scale? Was that transition hard? I'd imagine, like, I'm thinking about this, my identity is always so tied to businesses. So in those moments when then you end up saying, hey, I'm going to leave, it's like I feel like I'm kind of leaving my identity behind. And a lot of times then I think like I need to do something immediately to like build a new identity because otherwise it's like there's a gap. Like I'm like a chicken with its head cut off kind of like I don't really have one. Was there like, what was that process like?
Yeah, I would say for like the months leading up, I was already talking to Jared and we were like, okay, cool. Like we're going to build a company together. So quite literally the next day, like we were building a company together. And then there were just a lot of disagreements, which is why like the months leading up, I was already in talks with Jared. It ended up just like I realized I was like kind of burnt out. So I got him his job back at Stripe. And he's now crushing it with his company. And I invested, obviously, because I believe in him. And yeah, took a little bit of a break, then went into venture.
And you had a little bit of fun between.
Yes, I went traveling for, I want to say, a few months.
For a few months.
Yeah.
We want to hear about this. I was saying, I think when I talked to you the other day, I was like, from the outside, what I would see, like you first came on my radar, probably like with Scale, but then afterwards where I was like, there's like a news article, there's something always coming up about you. And you were like very openly buying a cool place or like doing really lavish stuff. Like, but you told me that you're like, hey, I think there's a big misconception about me and that like, I'm not really that person.
Yes, I would say like right after, I was extremely frugal. So what I had done was I moved to Vegas. And I bought this apartment for $70,000, and it was like, a few Teal fellows, and then a bunch of other people. We were like, well, let's make a community in Vegas in these like kind of janky $70K apartments. And we were like travel hacking. So what we would do is like, we would eat at the airport lounge, for example. So it was like a 5-minute drive, like very quick skateboard ride to the airport. And we would buy like a cancelable flight, so like a Southwest flight, get in security, cancel it, and eat at the Amex lounge for free. We also did a lot of travel hacking that allowed us to fly for free first class internationally, amongst other things. And I'm not going to say how we did that.
Wait, so you're doing this after Scale.
Yes.
You've already made a fortune, and yet you're still flying for free through travel hacking on Southwest.
Well, I wouldn't say I've had a fortune. Like I did a small like secondary, the Series B. But like for me, it's more important to grow my money versus, live off of it.
Yeah.
Because it was like a 7-figure secondary. So I was like, okay, cool. Like let me grow this.
How do you decide how much secondary to do? What's the, because I always think about this. As a founder, I meet so many people who built their businesses for so long and they have 8-figure, 9-figure opportunity to take money off the table and they choose not to. And I really respect those people, actually.
Yeah, I took way too much off the table.
You took way too much.
I mean, like for the valuation at the time, I do think I took too much. Nowadays, the way I think about it is just like, is it going to change my life? Am I going to like, do something drastically different? And if the answer is no, I don't really take anything
So you decided before that, even with the secondary, you would barely touch it. You would let it grow.
Yes.
And you would keep your lifestyle the same. Why not spend it more lavishly? Because that's what the newspapers like to think, apparently.
Is this a misconception?
I mean, I would say after I was able to like grow that money a bit, I definitely was like, okay, cool, now I can buy stuff, right? But I think I'm like after I bought everything that I like really wanted, and then the whole mindset was actually like a total experimentation. It was like almost a social experiment for me because I started noticing like I had hung out with like very, I think, humble people for most of my life. And then during COVID, I met this one friend who was just like, driving Aston Martins every single day, like different car every single day, was just like spending massive amounts of money on clothes, watches, etc. And like in my head, I was like, this is the most stupid thing ever, right? But I noticed how people treated him differently. I was
In a
like,
bad
wow.
way.
Oh no, in a good way. People
In
were
a
so
good
nice
way.
to him. Like your
Right.
random stranger is so nice to him. And this is like, and I understood like this was like how LA kind of worked. Like I have like, gone in front of a club and they let like 10 girls in and they stop me and they're like, you can't go in because you're like dressed like that. And I'm like, come on, bro. Like this is like, when I first moved from San Francisco, I've learned how I need to dress in LA. But I like noticed just like how nice everyone was being from like,
But do you realize? But also, people are trying to be friends because they think
but
that
it's not
your friend
even
has
just
money.
like friends. It's like, like maybe they think he's gonna tip well, right? But then like, the waiters bring him like extra food or like pay extra attention to him. I was like, that's all you need to do for people to just like literally bend over for you, wear nice clothes. So I went on a little shopping spree and I was like, let me get some jewelry and some nice clothes and let's see what happens.
And you have an amazing Pikachu backpack, I noticed.
Oh yeah, Pikachu,
which I really like.
No, it's funny because like now
So
everything
cute.
I wear is so cheap. Like this is like from Zara. My pants are from Shein, and like
Love Shein.
I know I love Shein.
It's so
Shein's the
cheap.
best. It's the best. All my pants are from Shein now.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't
It's
wear
just-
any of my jewelry anymore. Like it's all in my safe.
So you kind of went through this
I went through that
round,
phase,
and then you came out of it.
But I think I'm lucky to be able to do that now.
Yeah.
Like I think that. I noticed how much nicer people were like being to me. Like I was getting invited to everywhere, etc. Because like people want to be friends with like the rich person. But now that like everyone knows who I am, or like I've made that network, I'm like so over it. So I'm like, now I just wear Shein again.
What were like the most outrageous things you bought? If you could think of like like 2 or 3 things that are like that was outrageous.
I mean, I think watches are in general good investments. Like I bought a very
they're
expensive
good
watch, but like
Noah's a big watch guy.
yeah, I think if I like resold it on Sotheby's, I could get like 10x what I paid for it.
Wow.
So like,
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's like better than crypto investing.
yeah. So I'm
actually.
like, it was like ridiculous, but like, was it ridiculous? I don't know.
That's awesome.
Then it would probably be my cat.
Wait, how much did you spend on a cat?
20K.
They get
Spent
expensive.
$20,000 on a cat. What type of cat is this?
F1 Savannah.
That's awesome.
I need
They're
to see a photo of this
collectibles.
after this.
They're
Yeah, can you
collectibles.
get 10 times as much for the cat too
No.
if you sell it?
All right, bad
Yeah,
ROI.
that ROI, that was declining. And then, what is something else dumb that I've spent on? I don't really know. It'd have to just probably be like a random jacket or something that I bought that I thought looked cool. And
That's
I saw a
like
price tag.
you're pretty frugal then, actually,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
You bought what looks like a really sick place in Miami.
Yes. I'm finally renting it out though. I think the tenants started yesterday, so thank God.
It's interesting. I was just actually reading about this other guy, Neil Patel, who's like this. He's like a marketer. He actually lives in LA, I
Oh,
think.
yeah, I know Neil.
But he was talking about he did this experiment where he was like he owns like a marketing agency and he's been very successful doing it. But he's like, I wanted to see could I charge more money if I dressed nicer with clients? Like if I basically like projected that I was really successful, would people then like, could I make more money doing it? He's like, so I went and just bought like all the like Louis Vuitton shoes and the like Dior, like all this shit. And he's like, it was like way more. Like, he's like, people just thought I was so much more successful. So like more clients would sign with me. They'd spend more money with me, which was really interesting.
Oh, totally true. Yeah. I mean, like, this is what they do in Miami. They like, rent an Airbnb for a day, like rent a car and talk about like how you should buy their course. So they make tons of money, which is
Oh my God.
crazy, but it
Creators do
works,
this all the
yeah.
time where they just
Yeah.
say, oh, this is my Ferrari, this is my Lamborghini, this is my jet, and it's like just borrowed
Yeah.
for a few hours.
Yep. But it does
Such a
increase their
sham.
sales. Like that. This is how like Miami scams
Like, oh, be
people.
successful like me
Yes.
and look at what I've got, even though
Exactly.
it's BS. Yeah.
What'd you think of Miami? You're not there anymore.
I really love Miami, but that's because I got to meet like people that were like born and raised in Miami. I met like all my friends were like Latin, Venezuelan, Brazilian, Colombian, etc. Like true Miami people, and they weren't in the like I would say like the fakeness of Miami, which was like people go there to like really show off their wealth through the bottle service, etc. That just wasn't them. Like they grew up in like the middle of Miami. I don't even know the neighborhoods, but like. Not as like crazy. They didn't grow up in Miami, the city, and then they just went to college. U of Miami, stayed there. But I think that
real like authentic friendships. It
yeah,
sounds like.
no, there was like very much so mi casa su casa. Like one memory I have of Miami is just like I was there for the first time. I had no friends and I wanted to check out space. So I just like walked in at 6 a.m. I'm standing there alone, and then there are these girls who are like, "Oh, are you alone?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," and they're like, "Oh well, you're at your table. You're our friend now. Let's be friends."
That's
and
really
then
sweet.
yeah, they just adopted me. I became like I made friends with a bunch of people there, and then another girl like not like 2 hours later, I was like, "Oh, you're friends with her? Then you're friends with me. Mi casa su casa. Hands me your house keys. It's like you can use my house whenever you want."
That's really
and I'm
cool.
just like, I don't know you, but thank you. And then I ended up using her house, so it was great.
Yeah.
That's super unique.
Yeah.
What were the other things you really liked about Miami?
I would say the food was good, but I would say outside of the food and people, yeah, I think the food and people were the best in Miami.
But you leave to start your next business.
And
Yeah.
you come back to LA,
Yes.
where we are today.
Yes, so I'm in LA because the creator economy is such a relationships-driven business, and I wanted to be where the creators were, and this way I can see them every single day, invite them to things last minute, etc. Because there is something like I think that emotional retention is very real. Like there is obviously like product retention, but I think that what I've learned about creators is that like whining and dining and taking care of them and like being their friend is going to pay off more than product retention sometimes, where like they will stick with you even if they think like they can make more somewhere else, or like even if like another company offers them like millions of dollars to move over, if they feel that emotional retention, they're not going to move over.
But how did you decide that you were going to do a lot of that emotional labor to maintain and create these relationships? Because like if you're trying to build a company with massive scale, which you've done before, just hire out a team that does this. They're effectively your sales reps managing accounts.
So I do have a team that does it. I would say like there's a certain level of creator where they don't want to talk to anyone except the founder. And also like I found out like I'm just like online 24/7. So every single creator has my phone number, and like I might have a team, but like at like 2 a.m. in the morning, like my team's probably not responding. I'm more likely to be responding to them. So yeah.
I mean, it's cool. They probably respect the personal touch. And even if it's just like a few things from you here and there, that must go a long way for cementing the partnership.
Yep.
That's cool.
Is this a big lifestyle change for you? Because, okay, you come from being an engineer, you come from Silicon Valley, then you move to LA, and now like your life and business is being with creators, which is, I assume, a lot of nightlife.
Not really, no. I would say for the nightlife stuff, I definitely send my team. Like, for example, my friend used to DJ this like a Thursday night called Bar Elise, and I just refused to go. So I would just like kind of force my salespeople to go. I'm like, hey, I know, like it'll be fun though. Like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., you'll be in the DJ booth, just like become friends with every single creator that you see there. And they're like almost more than happy to do so oftentimes. I think I try to be there more for the like I guess like upscale events or like the cool things that like don't happen very often.
What are the wristbands you have on right now?
Yeah, so I took our creator to the F1.
Cool.
And these are from the F1.
Oh, fun. That's awesome.
What was your experience at F1?
I mean, it was great. They had a caviar bar, so I was just eating mounds and mounds of caviar.
Caviar.
Oh yeah, like this is a like example where I'm kind of cheap. Like I will never pay for caviar on my own, but like if I get it for free, which I happen to be at a lot of places where I get free caviar, which is an amazing perk of life.
Yeah, me too.
I'll eat like all of it. Like at somebody else, like just like keep on giving me just mounds of caviar on my plate, and they were. It was great.
Were you into caviar and like uni and all this fine stuff before scale too, or like?
I don't think I ever experienced it before because I could never afford it, and I wasn't in like these situations where I would get it for free. But I would say like my like taste in food, I really like savory foods and salty foods.
Yeah.
Like I over salt my food, so it was like pretty much natural that I would like it.
Has your life and your relationships with your parents and your extended family and your childhood friends changed a lot since making money and being successful? What's that evolution been like? And have you had to drop any relationships because it just doesn't fit anymore?
I wouldn't say I had to drop relationships because of like being successful. I would say like my relationships more so dropped when I dropped out of college, because I was like at a different place in life than a lot of my peers that I had maybe like went to school with, right? So we just didn't have as much in common. Like I was working and like let's say in high school, all we talked about was like anime, right? Like I wasn't watching animes anymore, which isn't great for conversation.
Yeah.
Or like so many girls, like all they talk about is like boys when they're growing up, right? And that just like that talk didn't interest me anymore. So I would say like that is something where like I kind of diverged from my like childhood friend groups. As for my parents though, I would say we're probably closer, but I wouldn't say it's like a function of being successful. I would say it's like a function of just like me maturing and realizing that like all the things that they did in the past were because they loved me, and that they were really trying to do what was best for me. And I could see like why it really hurt them when I like dropped out, like quit my job, etc. But now we're on good terms. So yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Do they get to enjoy some of your success? Like, will they take that and enjoy it?
I don't think they like me spending money. Like I had took them to a trip, Switzerland. Like I took them on a Christmas vacation to Switzerland, the whole family. I spent a lot of money on that Switzerland trip, and they just got so mad at me. They're like, "Why did you hire a private driver? We could have taken a train." And it was like to the point where I started crying, and I didn't talk to them for like the last 2 days of the vacation because it made me feel so bad.
So the immigrant mentality is to stay
Yes.
frugal, and you can't really pull that out of someone.
Exactly.
I mean, how about you? You made a lot of money, Noah. How do you?
Well, I'd say it's so funny because I think, I think a lot of people, if they are frugal, they just don't enjoy that. Even when you're like, hey, let me take you to this nice dinner. Hey,
Yeah.
fly business class. Hey, do these things. And they're just thinking about, well, like, this is really expensive. Or like, I don't need to order the steak. I could order like the chicken and it's $20, it's $20 cheaper.
Are your parents bougie?
No, not at all. Extremely frugal.
Wow.
I was thinking, I had a similar experience in college. I dropped out of college and I started a business, and I lost pretty much all my college friends because pretty quickly it's like the things that were important pre that just weren't important anymore. And it was pretty hard to relate to people because they can't really relate to you, or they're like, come out tonight and like, dude, I can't, like, I gotta, like, I have to work and I have to make payroll, right? Or it's like all these things start to change where it's just like hard to relate to friends.
Yeah.
So I definitely had that. Did you end up making a lot of older friends then to kind of like compensate for that?
No, I would say my friends were mainly the people that I met in the dropout community in San Francisco. There are quite a lot of us, there are a lot of teal fellows, for example. And I just noticed that like some slightly older friends, like, 25, let's say, back when I was, 18, 19 years old, everyone wants to like help and mentor the like young kid that might be a prodigy, right? And I don't think any of us were really prodigies, except maybe Vitalik. I would call Vitalik a prodigy. But people viewed like just being part of the Teal Fellowship as like something that makes you a prodigy.
Yeah.
Even though I would say it's just more so people that are smart, that were like more risk oriented.
Can we talk about dating?
Sure, we can talk about dating.
What is it like to date as you now?
It's definitely very interesting. I think that I've had the benefit of like being in like I have a large network, right? So like I have a lot of people to choose from, which is really nice. For example, like for the longest time, I pretty much only had like trust fund babies hitting on me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, like you have liquid money, so you can pay for everything, which was great. But then also you get like the other side where like, I don't really know how to say this that nicely, but like a lot of people are gold diggers or like escorts in LA, and like, I'm bi, so like I have a lot of these like escorts leech onto me in LA. And I'm like, oh, well,
How do you
like,
meet the escorts? What's the mechanism?
oh, well, you don't really know they're escorts until someone tells you.
Wait, you're
That's the
just
whole
picking
point
them
of
up
escorting.
organically, or is it through an app, or?
There's no app for escorts.
Well, I mean, just on Bumble, you're like swiping, and then it's like an escort.
No. I would say it's organically, like in person,
or on
organic.
Raya or whatever.
Yeah. I will say there are a lot of escorts on Raya.
How do you spot this out now? Like how do you know intuitively, like pretty quickly or instinctively, like this is probably an escort?
Oh man, that is so controversial.
Or like
Give us the
too
controversial.
I mean,
we love controversial.
Again, I want to preface this by saying that like I am all for people getting their bag. I just like, I think it's like a form of cheating if I'm with someone and I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So prefacing it with like, go get your bag, girls. But as for how you can tell, I would say if they're like always on jets, they're going to like very luxurious vacations with like nobody in the background.
I'm definitely an escort.
They have a lot of like expensive stuff. Like they have Hermes bags, they have Chanel, etc. And they just don't have a job. You can't Google their last name.
Wow, you got a system down.
Okay, and so dating in LA. What are some really bad experiences that you've had?
Probably the escorts.
Probably escort. Okay. Do you have any stories from that? Like anything that you can
They're
recount?
all really nice people. Like they're really genuinely nice people. They're actually a lot smarter than you would think. Like I think that like part of it is that like they probably studied psychology. They're very intellectual, etc. And they can keep a conversation going for hours, which is how they reel you in. I think it's just like it hurts in the end when you realize like, oh, you've been like hooking up with all these people without telling me behind my back. Like what?
So they don't ask you for like money or for anything. They just start doing that with other people. So they like come to you like, hey, this is just a normal relationship.
Yes.
And then you find out that they're,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, fascinating. And are you looking for like a long-term serious thing?
I mean, I would like to get married and have kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I actually was like, maybe I should start dating men again, which I did, open up my dating apps back to men because I was just like, man, like it's so much easier. Like you don't have to worry about that problem. They pay for everything. I love people paying for me now.
But would you want to only be with a guy who could pay for everything, or
Yes.
do you believe in equality? How do you deal with the polarity issue?
Yeah, I
given
fully
that?
believe in a guy paying for everything. Like, I'm a woman. I like being taken care of. I think the biggest turnoff that I can have is if, like, a guy asks to split the bill. Sometimes I'll just take the check because I'm nice, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I ask someone out, I'm always going to be taking the check. Or if, like, I feel like the guy's got enough turns, then, like, I'll take the check.
Yeah.
But no, I believe in chivalry. Like, I'm actually, like, a lot, like, princess girlier than most people would think in that sense.
How does that translate when you're dating women?
Oh, I pay for everything. But I think that like I expect them to do nice things, like cook for me. For example, like I'm pretty much like a guy in that sense, where it's like, okay, cool, like, and like just don't make me feel used. Like if I'm picking up like the dinner and like a bunch of things, like pick up like one drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you marry a woman long term, or like do you wanna marry a guy? How are you thinking about that?
I don't really think about it. Like I would marry a guy or girl.
Okay.
It's just about the person.
Yeah,
it's about
the person.
If it's the right fit.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
I mean, I would say like one thing that I've always valued that I don't know if I should value is like being a power couple. I like really intellectual, successful, like ambitious people. But also I realize that that's like not the most important traits in the world sometimes. Like obviously like, high EQ, being loyal, being kind are important as well. I think my standards might be a little bit too high, but like that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I would say like there are like deal breaker traits and traits that are just like, I could live without.
Do you think you emasculate the men given how successful you are? Because I get asked that all the time too, and it makes it a bit challenging.
Yeah, I would say typically the men that I have dated are more successful or like come from very old money. So they don't feel that emasculated.
But then isn't that limiting? Shouldn't you be open to dating guys who are like less successful or not from old money? And then you might have some of this, but you might not also.
Yeah, I think my philosophy is I want to be able to do things without having to pay for the guy. How do I explain this? Like, if we are going on a trip to Europe and I don't want to fly economy because I value sleep.
Yeah.
At least, like when I'm like traveling, I want to like be on adventure like right when I land. And I really don't like back pain. I want the guy to be also like I'll pay for my own business class flight. It'd be nice if he could pay for his. Like I don't want to pay for his.
Yeah, but he'll
feel,
pay for his own.
Yeah.
So it's like you have the poor guys, the super rich guys, and then in the middle where they'll
I think
cover themselves.
yes.
So they'll still take you out, but they're not gonna like cover all your luxuries. Like
exactly.
you'd be okay with that?
I'd be okay with that. Yes.
All right, perfect. So let's send Lucy a DM if you or anyone you know qualifies.
There's the Kelleher.
Kelleher, yeah.
Kelleher.
I have so many friends who met their now wives on Kelleher.
What's Kelleher?
There's Kelleher. There's this dating. It's like a luxury high-end dating service where I think it's like 50 grand.
I thought about joining Kelleher, but they quoted me 125 grand.
Probably because you're picky. Because I think they do it based
I
on
was
how picky you're going to be about the
I
people
said
you're
I
going to meet.
wanted
That's actually really interesting
Too
because
much.
most high-end dating apps I see, it's like the girls are free and the guys have to pay massive amounts of money.
But this also isn't like an app; it's just a service. So
yeah.
what
It's
you'll be
actual
is you'll be like
matchmaking.
you'll be like here's the type of person I want to meet, right? And like, am I open to? Is it just California or is it just LA?
Yeah.
Is it
But most
I'm open
matchmaking
anywhere?
services are the same, where it's like the girls, unless they know the girl has money, then don't ask the girl for money. But like for the most, I pretend I'm a different name, for example, and then they will literally just add you for free.
Yeah, but then you're passive in the network. You're not.
That's
they're
true.
not
You're
actually
passive.
searching
That's
for
true.
you.
You're passive. Not
And I
active.
want to introduce you to my friend Courtney. My friend Courtney is helping powerful, strong, successful, and rich women figure out what exactly do they want, how do they get clear on that, and how do they show up in a way that attracts the guy they want. So I'm going to put you in touch with her, and anyone else who needs some help here, let me know, especially if you're a powerful woman. I thank Courtney for helping me figure out all my own stuff. And she would make me write this like guide for what does it feel like to be with the perfect person. And over 3 months, we tweaked it like on a at least weekly basis.
You realize that like what you want in that moment might not actually be exactly what you want, and you start to
Exactly. Yeah.
This Kelleher one, because also it weeds out a lot of the people, right? So it's like it's all successful women who would also be able to like pay 50 grand or 100 grand or whatever to go do a service, like, which also means you're very serious, but you're not getting like, I don't generally like X or like you're not getting like model, actress, that type of thing. You're getting like VP at Salesforce or like, at Meta or
See, like my
companies
problem is
that.
like I really like creative people. So like the people that I would be into are like, musicians, actors, actresses, like DJs, etc. Which also limits the pool even more because the number of successful people that, are in those fields, like the percentage chance making it is just very small.
Yeah.
Have you
that's
dated
true.
any of those people?
Oh yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about passes. Maybe to backtrack a little bit, you started after you took a little bit of time off and then you start passes. Why is that something why is that an area you want to start a business in? Why is that an area you even really know much about?
Yeah, so I actually started passes while I was running HF0 and back in Capital. So we were essentially trying to like incubate / like be the best accelerator for companies, an alternative to YC. And during that period of time over COVID, I just made a ton of creator friends, and I saw that there was a real problem in the creator economy when it came to like good monetization. And around the same time, like Patreon raised at a $4 billion valuation, and I really respected the brand, but I thought that like I could probably move at a faster pace in terms of like product velocity. So I floated the idea to a bunch of LPs because none of my founders in the batch would work on it, and then they're like, "Yes, go start a company." And quite literally within like 48 hours over text message, I had a round raised. Didn't have a name, didn't have a deck. I literally was like, "Hey, I'm building another company. Don't really know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be like adjacent to Patreon." And it was a really quick fundraise. So ended up just starting it, and the idea is that like we want to be the best place for creators to monetize their brand and like become entrepreneurs, because I think creators are businesses, and I see them like as small businesses today, but like you can really grow them into like these unicorn companies. And we see this with like Jake Paul's companies, like Better, for example. Now he has W. Logan Paul with Prime, like Kylie with their cosmetic brand, like every influencer with their liquor brand, etc. But like they are essentially their own marketing machine. They don't need any CAC really. So and like with passes, we even see like how much fans are willing to spend on their creators just because they say like go spend money on this, and it translates pretty well when you find like a product, for example, that you think your fans will align with.
How did you differentiate, like when you were thinking about that initially? Because there's probably a couple different categories of this. There's like adult, right, which would be like the like OnlyFans side of creative, and then there was like the Patreon side. Did you say, hey, I want to just play like right in the middle, or like is that? Yeah, how were you thinking about that?
So, I mean, like, we're actually a lot stricter than Patreon. Patreon allows nudity, for example. We don't have any of that. So a lot of, like, nude content that's on Patreon, they just, like, have to go to Patreon instead of us if they don't want the, like, OF brand. I would say that the vision has always been to build fintech tools. And in order to build fintech tools, you can't, like, be an adult, right? So, like, that was already just cut off from the beginning.
That's a very challenging space
Yeah.
to be in. Do you then did you kind of you saw this as like a conduit to like embedded finance, and that was like the whole idea for this business?
Yeah, I mean, I had initially wanted to build a company that like basically got creators these like better brand deals that included equity, for example. But then I realized that creators just aren't going to trust you over their manager, and their managers are very like cash incentivized because Hollywood loves upfront cash if you weren't the one making them the most money possible. And I saw how much money was possible to be made from like direct fan to creator interactions, especially during COVID when like, everyone was really lonely, right? And they were craving a deeper connection. So I think step one was like, okay, cool. Like let's make more money for creators than really anywhere else they're making. So they gain your trust. And once you have the creators' trust, they're going to listen to you over their like agents and managers. And we're going to be more like incentive aligned as well. So now creators make like 80 to 100% of their income on passes. And like even our larger creators, the ones with like tens of millions of followers, we're still the majority of their income. Which is pretty cool to see. But because of that, I think that we have a lot more opportunities in like the fintech space that other platforms don't have.
Wow.
That's very cool. How does that with agents and managers, like, are they a little bit hesitant to let like their talent on because they're like, now this person's going to become dependent on like this company. They're going to see how valuable, like they can make all their money here. And so like, where am I going to add value? Or is it not necessarily like that?
I would say that it's not like that because for a lot of agents and creators, to this day, it still works that like they get 20% of whatever a creator does. At least
No matter
a lot of
what.
creators are like locked
Even
in a
if
contract.
it's monetizing off of your stuff.
So we actually see a lot of our creators, they'll like literally go into their console and change the amount they're making. So when they give it to their managers, they're taking a smaller cut of the 20%. Like we've seen people change their like earnings from 50,000 to 5,000 when they like, in their console. So they can lie about how much they owe their managers. It's pretty wild. Nowadays, these contracts are starting to change where it's like no longer that exclusive. It's like you only get 20% of like what you bring to me. But like so many creators are locked into these like pretty predatory contracts from the past.
Wow.
And I've seen a lot of my friends currently, like they have lawyers and they're going after their managers now. It's pretty
so
like
sad.
crazy as an industry.
Yeah.
I'd assume that happens a lot, especially with NIL and younger people. Like, what have you seen there? Because it seems like a lot of those people are on passes.
I would say with NIL, it's actually been a lot more generous because every agent wants to like take over NIL, for example. So because of that, they're like just doing representation essentially for free for a lot of people because it's such a new thing that they want to like prove their value first.
What are you seeing like the highest paid person, like NIL person that you have on passes? How much money are they making?
Like 6 figures a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Does a lot of that also come from, is there like messaging on the back end? Is that where the majority of the revenue comes from?
It depends on each creator. So for example, some creators are going to make more off of like merchandise than they are off of subscription. I would say as a platform as a whole, the majority of income is made off of DMs, but it is per creator.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a business you need to keep raising money for, or is this something that you think can just be like a cash printing machine?
I think it'd be a cash printing machine. I would say like the argument for me to raise money, for example, is like if I decide like, okay, cool, like NIL is really working and I want to like have a faster way of buying out every university, or I'm like, okay, cool, I want to go into pro leagues. Like that's more expensive. But yeah, like we've seen similar businesses, I think, that just print cash.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
I love cash printing businesses.
Yeah, like we were cash flow positive earlier this
So
year.
nice.
And now we're like, we have like over a decade of runway left. So it's nice.
That's great.
What gives you energy?
Gives me energy. I think berries gives me energy for sure. I think that like as like a very objective answer, like I wake up every single day. I do berries boot camp, and like the exercise and just like the music alone gives me a lot of energy. Other than that, I would say it's just like solving problems. I think that like this company is giving me a lot of energies because it's definitely like a roller coaster. There's lots of ups and downs. Like there's highs when like we get a like very large creator and they launch and it's going fantastic, and there's lows if like a creator like leaves the platform for whatever reason. Luckily, we have almost 100% retention on like creators that make $5K a month or more. But like sometimes a competitor just comes in and they're just like, we're gonna like triple what you make, which we never really fight back on because like it would be stupid to lose money on a creator where we know exactly how much they're making, and pretty much always come back. Like we actually just got one that purposely didn't fulfill her contract with a competitor, like stopped sending any posts because she was like, she hated them so much. She wanted to break the contract and come back to us.
Wow.
And we flagged the competitor's name. So I get to see like all the messages that come in that she's sending. And I'm like, wow, you really love us.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like now, I know we talked about this earlier, but your motivation. So your motivation isn't money. Your motivation is solving hard problems.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I like solving problems specifically for my friends. I've always been like the person that like encourages someone to like drop out of college, start their own company, etc. And I was doing that over COVID, where I had a lot of creative friends. I'm like, oh, you should use your talents and like start a creative agency, for example. You could probably do like podcast editing and filming for people and make like X amount per month. And a lot of my friends ended up like taking my advice and like starting their own companies and businesses because of it. And it's just like very fulfilling to see. And I think I just want to scale that to start. I say like life end goal is like I definitely want to like make my mark doing something like very good for the world. I think in my head, like I've always been like fascinated by like human trafficking because like yes, drug is like number one crime, but like human trafficking is something that like isn't anyone's choice, right? Like they are quite literally being kidnapped then trafficked, which is like I think one of the most disgusting crimes on earth. So it's like okay, cool. Like how can I support this cause and try to combat it? And the answer is either I think start my own human trafficking org with like a tech focus on it, or just do what I do best, which is like make a lot of money and donate.
Yeah, let's put in touch with our friend we talked to earlier today.
Just talk to somebody that has a nonprofit doing that.
Right before we came to see you.
Could be the right person.
Yeah.
Are you doing some philanthropy right now?
I mean, like I do donate to charities, but I would say like I'm definitely just fully focused on passes. We're trying to figure out like how we can do philanthropy within passes. So like those are other interesting like product features that we're looking into.
Could I ask, what's your attitude on your work-life integration? Because going through Y Combinator, the attitude is you're going to sleep under your desk and work 100 hours a week, and like you're going to die before this business goes out of business.
Yeah.
How do you think about it now?
I would think about it pretty similarly. Like I thought about it. I was like, I don't think I've ever like fully taken a day off. Like, have I like been at a festival? Yes. But like, do I have my phone and my laptop on me at the festival? Yes. So, in that sense, I would say like always working. In terms of just like hours in the office, I would say I probably get into the office at around 9 and leave at around maybe 9.
So you left early to hang out with us.
Yeah. No, I actually got called out. People were like, oh, Lucy, you're sneaking out of the office early today. And I'm like, I'm filming a podcast, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us.
Of course, of course. But yeah, like I think that like in general, like for me, like weekdays, I like working until let's say midnight and then I go to sleep.
You really don't sleep a lot then. If you're waking up at like 5:30 a.m. to go to Barry's and you're going to sleep at midnight, like that's a 5-hour night.
Yeah. I would say like probably go to sleep between 11 to 12. I really do shoot for like a minimum 5 hours of sleep.
Do you worry about like your health and long-term vitality if you're only sleeping 5 hours a night?
I mean, according to the doctor, I'm pretty healthy. That being said, like I think that the most I've ever slept in my life is 7 hours. So like for me, 5 hours isn't like that crazy.
I'm so jealous. I sleep 8 hours every night.
I wish I could sleep 8 hours. I mean, this could partially be my fault. Like I fall asleep pretty late and then I purposely keep the blinds open so I don't use curtains because I like waking up to the natural sunlight.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like I'm, just like waking up from a dream or something. So that's probably also why I end up sleeping less because, by the like 7-hour mark, the sun's bright.
Who is like one of the most influential people that or instrumental in your success? If you look back and you say like, I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be where I am today without that person.
Weirdly enough, it's probably my stalker from high school.
Tell us more.
Oh man, this one's crazy. This is a story. He also did Y Combinator, so I hope he doesn't see this. Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, like looking back, it's actually really like kind of fucked up everything that happened. But I was basically on this forum called College Confidential, and I was like, I need help with my college applications. And I had meant to be a chemical engineer because I was just like, I was crushing in AP chemistry. It was my favorite subject, blah, blah, blah. So in my head, I was like, okay, I'm good at chemistry. I'm good at math. Let's be chemical engineer. And this guy looks at my extracurriculars and my application, and he's like, you're a fucking idiot. You should go into software engineering. And I quite literally never even considered software engineering to be a degree. So I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'll go into CS. And he's like, yeah, you're meant to do startups, etc. And he really got me curious about the startup world. And I don't know how, but after that, I somehow got invited to this hacker house called Rainbow Mansion. And then met someone that routed me to the Teal Fellowship. So in that sense, I was probably one of the reasons I even got the Teal Fellowship because I had built that relationship in high school. But yeah, he ended up, following me to college after I ghosted him. I think he was I was obviously 17 at the time that he was messaging me in love with me. And I think he was 25, 26. So a little bit of a weirdo, but yeah.
Okay. That's well, was this got to a point and you need to get we cut this, but you need to get a restraining order or something, or this is just creepy?
I mean, this guy as far as he probably sent me 2 emails since then, since he found me in my college, and I just remember I was so scared for my life, but all he did was he dropped his suitcase and made a bang, and it was 2 a.m. in a CS building, by the way, and he just slowly walks over to me, grabs my hand, kisses it, and leaves, and I never see him again. Thank God. And then he sent me 2 emails since then.
It's terrifying. Have you ever had a stalker?
I have not had any stalkers like that. No.
Yeah. And see, it wasn't as creepy to me back then, but now, I'm older. I'm oh my God, I was 17 and this guy had a full-on management job at IBM or something.
Oh my God.
Wait, so who do you admire and look up to now? Is there anyone who you've studied and said, I want to be more like them?
I would say in general, I look up to people who have founded multiple companies and have been successful at doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel there was some pressure when you started when you started your next company that hey, I built this unicorn company. Now, whatever I do next has to be of substantive value or something maybe equal to what I built?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that pressure, but I think that pressure is good for me as well because I'm fully focused on doing it a second time, and it's going well, so I have no complaints.
But what's the balance between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation for you? Intrinsic being you're just motivated because you love solving problems, you love helping people, versus the pressure, extrinsic being the pressure of I have to do this to check the box of I have multiple successes. I'm not a 1 or 2 trick pony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I would say for me, it is very intrinsic that I want a 2 trick pony because I could fail and I don't think any of my investors would care, for example, because they're just so used to, I mean, obviously they would be upset and disappointed, but companies fail all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Venture is a power law effect.
Yep.
I think it's going to be more soul crushing for me if it fails. So for me, it's that's part of my intrinsic motivation.
Yeah. So you just want to prove to yourself
Yes,
that...
I want to prove to myself.
Mm-hmm. But then you crush it 10 years from now, you have another home run, grand slam success, and then what? Will you just keep on wanting to do this, or will you be ready to move to the next phase and help with, philanthropy or other stuff, or you operate your life with no planning? It's just year by year, let's just see what happens.
Honestly, I have very, very little planning, but in my ideal future, I imagine having 2 kids, which I would imagine I would want to spend more time with. So then I would probably be doing philanthropy. That being said, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd be starting a second company, to be quite honest.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I was going to stick with venture for the rest of my life.
Huh.
Yeah.
You're an early investor in Ramp.
Yes.
These are people you just knew the founders early on, or what's the story there?
Yeah, so I was a huge fan of their product Pair Bus. I had used it a ton, and one of my friends, a Teal fellow, he messaged me. He's like, "You have to get in on this round. Go meet them." And I was like, "Oh my God, I have to get in on this round because they're the founders of Pair Bus." So I literally hopped to New York the next day and meet with them and begged them to let me in. And they let me in with a check, and then we were just pretty helpful early on with just hiring. Referred them to a bunch of good engineers and like other roles, including actually the one that like, blew up a scale for like with his marketing. He had ended up, I recruited him to Ramp after. And then he blew Ramp up too. So yeah, they let us double down on the next round and ended up being a very good investment.
That's awesome.
And tell me about like some of the misconceptions with creators. I think when we talked the other day, I was like, it has to be weird because like you're spending a lot of time with people. Like you're like, hey, I built technology companies. I'm an engineer, and then I'm spending time with people who like create content for for a living. And they seem to be very polarly opposite things. And I think the way that I would look at creators a lot of times is be like, oh, you're selling photos on the internet. But the way that you put it, it's not. I'm really oversimplifying it.
Yeah, so I would say creators, at least the really successful ones, are very hard workers, like much more hardworking than people would expect. Like they're up early to do photo shoots. They don't drink. They're like completely sober because they want to look fresh whenever they're doing like their next thing. A lot of them have like a different career, or at least ambitions of a different career, whether that's like building their own brand or company or like, being a pop star, et cetera. And we're seeing some of the like hardest working creators transition into the different careers successfully, which is really cool to see. Like I always tell people like what makes a difference when you're like a good creator on passive versus like someone that doesn't make a lot of money is just like the amount of content they churn out. And content does take time and it takes a lot of creativity. So I generally think that creators work harder than people would expect.
And you want to help a lot of them also with not only making money, but then keeping that money and growing that money.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times, especially if you're not, I don't know if financial literacy is really the term, but if you haven't had a lot of money before and suddenly you're making a lot of money, you don't really know what to do with that money.
Yeah, I think creators in general, just like no one really taught them anything. Like a lot of them don't realize taxes exist, right? So they end up spending all their money on taxes. They've always like had trouble financial planning, partially because of like the way brands like paid them out, where a lot of brand deals will pay out like 6 months late. So you could be expecting money in February, but it doesn't come until like much later. And then they just like, I don't know what it is. Like, I guess it's because like the excitement of finally getting your check, but like usually what happens is they get the check and they immediately spend it. Like we've had creators that were like quite literally homeless and then, started making like a good 5 figures a month. And then they would call us going like, hey, like I need my payout today. Like right now because I have to pay rent. And I'm like, how can you not pay rent? You just made this much money per month. I was like, can you wait like a day? And they answered me like, no, like I need it right now. And I'm like, that is some pretty bad financial planning.
Wow.
And like we even see in our system, like we offer like 3 different payout levels. Like you can get it in one day, you can get it instantly, or you can get it in 3 to 5 days, but you can technically schedule them daily. So like it is coming every day if you schedule it daily. And like the amount of creators that like use instant payout and pay that extra 10% is like, it's pretty wild. So that just shows to me alone, I'm like, everyone needs better financial literacy.
And you're also helping them connect them to a lot of these opportunities to build their own brands.
Yep. And we're working directly with creators on this as well.
I was really shocked by, I didn't realize the extent of that. Like I went to some dinner recently and there was like a guy from CAA, there's a guy from UTA that both did brand partnerships, as in like just finding brands for creators to like have equity in and, build. And I just didn't realize that it was as intentional as it is.
Yeah, I would say most creators, they make the majority of their money through brand deals. Like on passes, they make more money than their brand deals combined. But like most creators, like we don't have every creator obviously on this planet on passes. And if you talk to a creator, like they'll tell you like all their money is from brand deals, which is why there's like managers and agents that are both out there scoping for brand deals for these creators. And why I don't think that like, passes interrupts everything, because it's just like, okay, cool. If we found creators brand deals and these 2 people are finding them brand deals, then that's just more brand deals and more money for creators. We're not really like competing against each other. Yeah. Except maybe like who's their favorite.
And a lot of these like large talent agencies, they like what you're doing and you can build partnerships with them.
Yeah. I mean, we work with a lot of talent agencies. We tell them what we're looking for in a creator. They like know creators that we might not know even exist. Not to mention that like pretty much every large creator is rep by talent agencies. So we work with them to convince the creator to come on. And then, they take their percentage. So they're happy too.
I think it's also very challenging because if any creators want to do anything like outside in the like more adult area, it's really challenging because then most brands won't ever want to work with those creators. they're going to have a hard time getting like a Colgate, like a Colgate deal when you're doing anything on the adult side.
Yep, we've noticed that too, which is why like a lot of creators that were on OF like want to switch over to passes, and we tell them that like they're just not going to make as much. And the reason is because I think that like even if you're doing completely like G-rated content on OF, I think that a lot of people like spend money on a false hope that if they spend enough money, then maybe you'll like start doing sexier content. Versus there isn't that false hope on passes, so like the amount that each person is willing to spend is probably just like lower, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Like we've seen creators switch from like passes to OF, and like they do make like I would say just slightly more on OF, but when they come from OF to passes, it's a big drop. To the point where like we warn creators, we're like, if you want brand deals, I guess this is worth it for you, but like you're going to be seeing a lot less money. And I think that like the creators that do choose to go on OF, they make that calculation where they're like, I'm just going to make so much money and invest it that I won't ever have to have a brand deal again.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just a very different path,
Yeah, I mean, like you'd be like Corinna Kopf, who made like what was it, $52 million on OF, something crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. And hopefully you invest that really well and you have good people around you to help invest that money.
Yeah. And like from what I understand, she lives a pretty like chill life. Like I think she lives on a farm, doesn't really go out, etc. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. But yeah, like if you invest it well and you're not like an idiot with the spending, like that is enough money where like you don't have to work again. Like we have so many creators on passes that do like, over 100K a month, like some closer to $500,000 a month. It's like if they don't spend that money, and they could technically just be on us for like a few years, and then that could turn into generational wealth.
Yeah.
What are a couple of things people don't know about you that from the outside they wouldn't know this, that you're like, but if you knew the real me, this is what you'd know about me?
That's a good question because I put a lot of my life out there. I would say that like one thing that I think that people don't realize, like what I really love is nature. So whenever I'm like figuring out a travel destination, I always look for like the like highest peak mountains to be able to hike. And then I like Google like the views to make sure that it has like the views that I want, because I'm very like kind of specific on what I want.
Okay.
And then that's like kind of how I choose to travel, and I'm very spontaneous about it. Then I'll just like, find like a 3-day window I have maybe and go. Unfortunately, I haven't really been able to travel since passes. But like this winter, for example, like over Christmas, maybe I'll go somewhere. At least that's the plan. So really, really like nature and just like views. Like my favorite trip I've done is South Africa, because, I was just like in the jungle with the animals, like literally lions are coming up next to us. Elephants were like in my backyard, etc. And they were like, it was like truly in nature, which is cool. Yeah.
Do you go by yourself on these trips, or do you like to go with friends, family?
It's a mix. Like I'll go by myself, or I used to go only by myself. Like I preferred solo trips, just to like, be in my own thoughts. But recently, I think that I have been more scared for my safety as like my public persona has gotten more popular or like more well known. So I think like now I would want to go with somebody. I would say like the most recent trips I've made have been solo, but yeah, like I was just broken into, for example, in my West Hollywood home, and that scares me, right? Because I'm like, okay, cool, people are watching my stories and seeing where I am to like target me, which is not the best feeling in the world.
What happened?
I posted that I was on a plane to Vegas. My friend was having like a last-minute wedding, and literally right after I posted the plane, that night, someone came and they broke a window and tried to steal stuff, but I had roommates home, and they were really surprised I had people home. Like, they definitely did not expect that I had people, so they ran off.
Wow.
You have people? You have roommates, or like just people that like crash at your place from time to time?
Man, so they were temporary roommates. They're moving out in December. I'm really sad about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and after that experience, I'm like, I do not want to live alone. I'm almost considering convincing one of them to stay. I mean, like, you can stay here for free. You don't have to pay. Just like, don't leave me.
That is the move. I've had veterans living in my house.
Yeah.
Like armed, like, ex-US Army or Marine Corps in one of my guest bedrooms.
Yeah, it just makes you feel safer because, like, I'm
really
too scared
nice.
to, like, touch a gun, for example. But, like, they have guns. And, like,
Totally.
that makes me feel safer.
And they get free rent.
Yeah.
And everyone
It's a good
wins.
trade.
It's a great trade, but it's kind of weird having lots of guns in your house,
I just don't want to
Yeah.
see them.
It's terrifying to have to worry about that, though. That actually, like, even has to be a thought that, like, I have to worry that people are going to break into my house.
Yeah, no, I'm upgrading my security, but I already have like started upgrading it, but I'm adding a lot of like little I'm adding barbed wire. I'm adding like spikes everywhere. So like if someone tries to hop this thing, they're gonna get shot and like
Oh my
poked.
God. Wait, so what are the other challenges of being well-known, successful, rich, everything? Like, what?
Honestly, I would say the perks outweigh the
Yeah.
like cons. So I would say the main con is that like I have to worry about my safety, but besides that, everything's great.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a good
Yeah.
trade.
Who do you spend the most time with outside of like your team at work?
I mean, I would just say my homies that I've known for, the last few years. They're amazing. They cook for me. They feed me like food at restaurants. I think like a common misconception is like, oh yeah, like if you're rich, people are only friends with you because like you're rich. And I'm like, but I don't really pay for anything. Like my friends just do
Yeah.
everything for me. And I think what people don't realize is that like rich people are friends with rich people, or like successful people. And like maybe some of my friends don't have as much money as me, but they're also like gentlemen and
Yeah.
they pay for everything.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Like I haven't had to take out my credit card at dinners. Like, they cook for me. They, like,
So what
drive me
percentage
everywhere.
of your closest homies are in the successful business camp versus like just creatives and other?
I mean, my creative friends are also very successful in that, like, they make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, in terms of, like, successful business versus creatives, it's probably, like, 50-50. But, like, I think I generally gravitate towards people that are, like, hard workers. And, like, hard workers are going to be successful, especially, like, closer to my age in, like, whatever they're doing, right? So, yeah.
Have you met anyone in the last, like, let's say this year, that you're like, this person is going to be in my life for a very long time?
I mean, I think the first person that quite literally comes into my mind is my new CBO. If he ever tries leaving, I'm going to literally lock him up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you make, because you're very social, you're meeting lots of people, and like, I bet every week you're probably meeting like 20 new people. Do you make friends easily? Are you a little bit guarded and you kind of like keep the people that you have close to you and don't
Yeah.
make a lot of new friends?
So I think that I have like a core set of friends that I keep very close to me that I consider like, like they would take a bullet for me. I would take a bullet for them. But I would say like my problem is I might be like a little bit too friendly. Like for example, if like there's like a concert coming up and like I know I have extra artist passes and like I could like literally reach out to someone that I don't even know the name of, basically, and be like, hey, like I know you like this artist, like do you want this pass? And then like suddenly they think that like we're best friends, and like I will not remember them the next time I meet them. And this happens so much where it's like a running joke where like people come to me like, Lucy, you've met me like 5 times or 10 times, or like I'll give a hug where like, oh my god, so good to see you, and I'll just be like, I don't remember your name. Like even at F1 weekend, like the number of people, like I had like 10 people come up to me, hug me, like scream my name, be so excited to see me. I didn't know any of their names.
Oh no!
I'm like, oh man.
Oh,
So I would say
no.
I'm extremely friendly to the point where like everyone like, they're just like, oh my god, we're best friends. And I'm like, oh, I'm so bad with names and faces.
Yeah.
Which is probably really helpful in what you're doing though, right? Because you need to make everyone feel like you're like their best friend. And it's also like a helpful way to meet more, I assume more creators, I assume more people that are going to go on passes.
Yeah.
It's just like you are generally open to new relationships and friendships, and that's cool.
Yep. And there are just people that are like, I like, they're amazing and I bond with them and, we're hanging out like all weekend long. But because I meet so many people, like by like 3 weekends later, I will have forgotten their name.
Yeah, I get that.
Especially if they're like, not in LA, so I'm not seeing them like again right away.
Yeah. What's that phrase you used? Emotional recency or something?
Emotional retention.
No, emotional retention. Yeah, I like that.
Emotional
I
retention.
mean, that's high
a great
emotion.
thing.
That's high friendship retention. I will
Yeah.
say.
That's high. Yeah.
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 Like you'll have to meet me like 5 times before I remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very cool though, because I think a lot of people, as they get more successful, they become a lot more closed and they become more closed off and like isolated in maybe the group that they're in. And they kind of are just like, we just stick with this.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with like my super successful friends or like my super old money friends. Like they refuse to make new friends. Like I'll be like, oh, can I bring a friend over to your place? And they're like, absolutely not. You only. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to go over because I'm with like a friend that I don't want to
But
ditch.
why do you think the old money people in particular are so bad at making new friends? And why are they so... Because like so many people have lots of money now. It's not that.
I think they grew up more
novel.
paranoid because, like, from a very young age, they were probably taught, like, people will use you for your money and, like, your safety will be compromised, etc. Versus new money, we grew up very normal, right? And, like, we understand what it's
We're
like
poor
to just,
and
yeah, exactly.
It's like hustling.
It's a really sad way to live, though, to not be able to go make new relationships and feel like people are just out to get you.
Yeah, I will say that, like,
that
they're
sucks.
very, very close to the friends that they have. Like, they've grown up with them. What I've realized is, like, pretty much every old money family is, like, connected. Like, I can guess if someone's old money just based off our mutual friends on Instagram. I'll be like, oh, you only know these people, therefore you must be old money. And it's, like, right, pretty much 100% of the time.
Could you end up with one of those people if it's like they were very well off, but it's not earned?
I don't really mind, but I would want them to at least like be working. I think that I have a lot of friends that are old money and their like schedule is literally like wake up at 6 p.m., get ready, go to dinner, party, fall asleep at 6 a.m. and repeat. And I don't think I could be with someone like that. Like I'd want them to like at least have some ambition still. I think it's like I would never penalize someone for growing up luckier than someone else, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're still like hard work. I would almost say it's maybe more impressive that they're like so hardworking and motivated in that it's so much easier to be lazy in that environment.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day about this concept because I think a lot of those people that as you get more successful, you're more isolated, whatever, you stop doing things, you stop trying to meet, like you kind of don't want to like cold outreach somebody. Like you get, it almost makes it weirder for people. We're like, I've been so successful, I'm not going to like cold email this person. And I'm like, they just need like a networking person, right? Like a chief networking officer that just goes out and like finds good relationships that are kind of like trusted and vetted for you. I think a lot of people would benefit from that because it would like open up that container for them where they feel a little bit more open to meeting people, knowing that like, hey, these people aren't just like trying to get things from you.
Yeah, I feel like there's always so many events though where it's like, you know, you're at the event and you know that every single person at that event is like pre-qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the F1 Super Bowl type things, or
Yeah,
what are you thinking about?
I mean, I would just say like, for example, like if there's like an art event, for example, and it's being hosted by like a certain group of people, then you know that everyone there is probably pre-qualified. But I will also say that like, I wouldn't say F1 is like totally pre-qualification because I think that old money wealth is a lot, I don't want to say snobbier, but in some way it's like different, right? Like I can't really explain it, but the vibes are not there. Like they might like admire someone in tech that has like multiple billions, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll like want to be friends with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Even
Yeah,
if that person has significantly more money than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't really make sense to me, like totally, but like I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally know what you're saying.
Yeah.
What else are you hacking? Like what else are the things in your life today that you've like found a way to hack?
I mean, hotels, but I'm sure you have the same thing, do you not?
No.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. What else?
You know, I met a guy who sold a company to Gusto somewhat recently, and he was like, he's a tech guy. He's like kind of a not nerdy, but like really intellectual, like engineer tech guy. And he's like, I realize that hotels will, if you're like a influencer or somewhat famous, right, will give you either like comp rooms or give you huge discounts on rooms. He's like, so I bought an Instagram page with like 100,000 followers, and it was like not very much. And he's like, I have someone post a couple of pictures of me, and then I have my assistant reach out to the hotels like ahead of time, be like, he wants to come stay at the hotel. He's a very famous, influencer or whatever. And a lot of times they'll just give him discounts on hotels. And he's like, not that guy at all. Like
I know a girl that literally bought 2 million followers on Instagram and like buys fake engagement per photo. So like her photos will get like thousands of likes and comments. So it looks very real, right? Unless you like know what fake comments look like, which it's just emoji spamming essentially. Like if it's enough emoji spamming, they're fake comments, even if the accounts look real. And she just gets free like flights, free hotels, etc. everywhere at these like 5-star resorts. It's insane.
That's so
I'm like, this
smart.
is like most brilliant hack ever, except also it's like kind of scamming people. And like I think that like eventually at some point, she may get sued. I think they like made a law saying that like buying fake Instagram followers is now illegal.
Really?
Something came up, or like a bill. I don't know, but like someone is trying to like ban buying fake followers because it is harmful to businesses if you're dumb and you're not checking for these things. But like a lot of them, like if it looks like there's fake engagement, like if there is fake engagement, a lot of people just like won't know.
Mm-hmm. All right, so hotels. Anything else?
Yes, hotels. I mean, I don't know. I'm just extremely cheap. Like one thing I do is like when I go to restaurants, I go check to see if there's like a deal on Uber Eats. So last restaurant I was at, they had 2 for $1 for spicy vodka, and I literally got the like spicy rigatoni and bought it on Uber Eats and had it delivered to my table in plastic boxes because it was 2 for $1, which is a great deal, by the way. I just saved myself like $27.
But at a certain level, it doesn't make sense to optimize that much.
I think when I first did my secondary and I had money, people were so confused because I was still taking Uber pools. And they were just like, why are you taking Uber pools?
Yeah.
Like, you may have enough money. And like, don't you value your time? And I'm like, well, I'm meeting interesting people in a car, Like, there are some pretty cool conversations that happen. Actually, my Uber driver is the reason why we got a pre-seed round for Scale. That's a whole nother thing.
Can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah, I mean, he was just saying, hey, do you know like this guy Paige Craig? He like coined a term in Silicon Beach, and I was like, oh no, I don't. And then afterwards, we have a conversation about him. I look him up on Twitter. He's already following me. I slide on his DMs, tell him I'm thinking about doing YC, and I have a startup idea. We meet in like LA a few times, and he's like, I want to invest $1 million.
Did you ever go back to this Uber driver and be like, hey, thank you so much?
I have no idea who they are. Yeah. But like I just have like a lot of interesting conversations in like these Ubers. So but for me I was like, oh, like an Uber pool isn't really a waste of time. Plus I could always technically be working my laptop if I'm saving money. So like I think one thing that really annoys my friends now is that I always order Uber X's and they just get so bad. Like they were like, we just flew on a private jet and you ordered an Uber X for us to the hotel. And I'm like, they're like, we just landed on a private jet and you got us a Toyota Camry. And I'm like, what's wrong with the Toyota Camry? But like my guy friends get annoyed. My girlfriends are like chill. But like I think, guys are always trying to impress the girl or make an impression, whatever like they care about. So like when I like order the Uber X, like I'm banned from ordering Ubers now. Like my guy friends are now they just pay for the Ubers. But like they got so mad at me at some point because they were just like, we can't ride another Uber X, Lucy.
Do you feel like you want to not have like much liquid cash available because like then you just you don't even think to do those things, right? Because now it's like, well, I'm just going to be frugal because I don't have a bunch of cash sitting around.
I mean, I think that like I will always like ride Uber X's no matter what. Like my assistant, he was like, do you want me to get another car? Because he drives like a pretty old, I think Toyota Camry or something. And I'm like, no, I really don't care. Like your car is fine. But I think there's like certain things that like I really like fashion. And like if I just happen to be in an expensive store and see something really nice, I might like point at it and be like, ooh, I want. And by not having liquid cash, it prevents me from doing stupid things like that. Mm-hmm. But I also love like cheap stores. Obviously, like half my stuff is Shein. But I will say that like, sometimes Dolce & Gabbana makes something really nice.
Lucy, super fun hang. Yeah. I mean, it's been years that I've had so many people say we should hang out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's just the Asian connection or what, but I'm glad we got to do this. And it's just rare to meet another woman who's been really successful, but who just also, is so authentic and raw. I think a lot of other, like for all women in general who I've interviewed or chatted with in a more public setting, a lot of them tend to be really guarded. But you're really out there and like just your true self. Why do you feel able to do that?
I think it probably has to do with confidence and just like I love controversy, so I don't really care about like people's opinions of me. Versus I think a lot of people are told to like make this perfect image of themselves. Like even like during back end, right? Like I would send out these tweets and I would literally have LPs call and be like, well, what was this? Like, why'd you tweet this? And blah, blah, blah. But like, I just don't care. Versus I think a lot of like women feel pressured to present a perfect like person due to their career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then where did you learn that you're okay with controversy? Because that also goes against the strict conservative Asian parenting.
I mean, I think that the confidence really helps. Like, before, like bullying, for example, would really hurt me. I was bullied when I was in elementary school, middle school, and high school. Like, people would make anonymous accounts on the internet and like spam me hate messages on AIM, on like Ask.fm, etc. And like as I grew more confident, like I just realized like, well, these people, like I don't even know who they are. I don't interact with them. Like I don't think about them. Like they're literally paying attention to me for like giving brain power to me, and I'm like just out here living my best life. So I think it just like I feel it's almost a compliment for me nowadays. Like it strokes my ego if someone's like hitting on me, because it's just like, oh wow, like I'm really taking up a lot of brain space, like cool. And then like on the other end you have like I have a lot of fans that like really help as well, where they're just like, we love how authentic you are and how open you are, etc.
So it's good for business net. The downside is you might have some employee or an investor who's like, that's like so out there and crazy, but if you look at the overall picture, it's better for you than not.
I think it is, because I get more attention, which like the creator economy is like an attention economy essentially. And really the creators, I would say, connect with it more. Like they're like, oh, you're so fun, you're so open, you're so cool. It really is just like more of the professional setting. So like, for example, if I were to raise another venture fund, I think my Twitter would probably get scraped, or I should like lock my Twitter down to private.
But would you really do that? Like,
I prefer angel investing for the moment, at least. It's so much easier.
Like when you've had an LP or an employee complain about being raw or authentic, like how do you handle it? What do you tell them, and how do they react?
Honestly, I'm pretty good about it. I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll delete that. Or, oh, I see your perspective, which I do. And I'm like, I'll make note. Like, I think I have gotten a lot less controversial on Twitter, which has actually upset some investors. They're like, oh, man.
There's no winning.
And they're like, I like the old Lucy.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, man.
They like the controversy.
Yeah.
Well, Lucy,
usually the crypto investors.
And you also lost a lot of money in crypto. You made a lot of money, but then subsequently lost it.
Are we talking about the meme coins?
You're talking, well, that's a whole other thing. You bought Bitcoin a long time ago, and that got hacked.
No, it didn't get hacked. It got seized by the FBI. So I left it on an exchange. I never put it in a wallet, and obviously that was like dumb of me. So I guess the exchange got seized by the FBI. So now it's all just poof, which sucks. But life happens.
What meme coins? What you got a story there?
I don't know the story. I've just been buying in at the wrong prices. I've been selling at good times. So like I was up like 10, 20x on Chill Guy. And then, I got FOMO, and then I bought in at a bad time. And because I thought it was still going to go up, and now I'm down a lot, but it's okay.
Are you going to keep doing that? Is that just like kind of fun for you?
It is fun for me. I think I'm going to continue doing it with very small amounts of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lucy, you have awesome energy. It's been really fun to have you here. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Congratulations on passes and everything that you've accomplished there.
Thank you.
We're fans rooting for you there.
Thank you.
Looking forward to Barry's tomorrow.
Awesome. I'm excited.
I'm gonna see if I can beat you on a treadmill.
That's not possible.
I'll be sleeping.
I actually did meet a guy in Miami the other week that crushed it. I've never felt so incompetent in my life.
Really?
Yeah, he was keeping up with me. Not on like the longer runs, but the sprints.
You're very competitive.
I was. I love it though when like people are actually racing me. It's fun. I find it fun.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, this guy's good. Like he was pushing me, which was good because like sometimes I'm like lazier on like certain parts of the run, and I was like, oh, you're going at the speed. I have to go at the speed now.
I hope to give you a run for your money tomorrow.
Good luck.
Well, thank you again for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This was awesome.